All right, 2 minutes away, guys. Just got to quickly send out this invite. All right, give it a thumbs up if you can see this, if you can hear me. Say hell yeah. Hell to the yeah. I see no hell yeahs, so I'm assuming I'm muted. There's clapping hands. I'm assuming that's a sign that you can hear me. We good? Let's hop to it then. That's what this is all about. Hell yeah, there it is. All right, expert training. Yes, I call myself an expert. That is a bit egotistical, isn't it? Weak. All right, so we're going to move on. We're talking stubborn belly fat tonight, increasing testosterone, all good stuff that guys want without actually doing the work. Okay, that's a joke. There is some work involved, but typically not the kind of cardio or calorie counting you typically think of when you think of dieting. So let's put those phones away. Of course, unless you're watching on a phone, which is a strong possibility. In that case, simply close out the other browsers because it's only going to be a half hour. Good focused attention is what we want on this. So what we're going to do is move into those 3 secrets, right? I've talked about these ad nauseum in a few posts. I like the Jets reference there, Ian. It's a little delayed on my commentary, so if I get back to you a little late, bear with me. So the 3 secrets. How I got fat eating boring, typical diet food, right? Chicken, broccoli, brown rice. And instead got lean with a weekly Five Guys burger and fries. So I'll elaborate on that, obviously, to some great detail. We'll also talk about how CrossFit nearly killed me and what to do instead. And then thirdly, how I overcame my fat kid genes, right? Lots of you know I was a chubby, heavy set would be the politically correct term. Kid growing up in high school, and no one actually believes that anymore. So I do have pictures and proof, but nonetheless, I'm going to show you how you can kind of change your genetic blueprint. It's not easy, but it is possible. And of course, there's a bonus. There's always a bonus incentive to stick around till the end. So stay tuned. All right, so who this isn't for. This is not for hipsters. Okay, I'm kidding. This guy just happens to have a big beard. I'm talking CrossFitters who are pretty jacked already, and they have the time to train 2 hours a day and, you know, get the nutrition in them and the recovery in them they need to perform at that level. And for most of you, you know, your dads, you're busy, you've got career and family commitments. You just simply cannot go to a CrossFit box and destroy your body every night and recover from it. So I'll show you what to do instead. This also is not for anyone that claims to be vegan, is vegan, vegetarians. All of these are not in my lane. I cannot help you. So preferably you just X out now if this is the case, okay? Unfortunately, I just can't be bothered with these types. So, but you can look up this guy on YouTube. He'll hook you up. That's probably a joke. You've seen the video. The third piece, who this is not for, is professional bodybuilders, right? Or aspiring bodybuilders. I mean, I have mad respect for these guys. They train hard. They look amazing if you're going for that big, bulky look. But what it takes to get to this point of leanness and size is not within the realm of possibilities for someone that is not going to stick a needle in their butt. So unless you're willing to do that and take several pills throughout the day, you know, you're not going to achieve this kind of physique, and I'm not the man to help you do it. So there's probably someone on the internet who's much better off. All right. So who this is for? So this is for the dad that wants to be a little leaner, a little sexier for his wife or partner, you know, I don't judge, and wants to make the other moms, you know, be a little jealous of you and your woman when you come around the school, right? There's a little bit of a, you know, a vanity metric to this, but certainly it's not the main thing. You want to be healthier for your kids and that, but looking good is a positive benefit. You get more shit. People respect you more. Unfortunately, that's the way the world works. So you want to be able to take your shirt off at the pool. That's kind of who this is for, right? So that was me. So who am I? Well, I don't want to get back into my history too much because most of you know who I am. But this was my elementary school where my name, you know, happens to rhyme with bitch. And I was called Mitch Tits because of my moobs. And there was a group of kids that kind of picked on me for a few years. And that kind of carried forward into high school. So that was sort of my motivation for getting in shape. But it certainly hit rock bottom. Apologies for the selfie pic. Rock bottom in high school gym class, right? The gym teacher brought out one of these fancy devices, right? Measures your body fat. And he put all the guys and girls scores actually on the board, which I don't think you'd be doing anymore. That seems completely out of the realm. But I had the highest score, 36% or something. And, you know, the kids kind of laughed and judged me. And, you know, I know they wouldn't do this to kids anymore, but it certainly hit home that I was overweight at that point, right? So what did I do? Well, video games was closest to my heart at that time. So I put a sticky note on my monitor that if I didn't lose those 60 pounds within a year, I would have to quit playing video games cold turkey. And that was my love, right? My first love at that time. So I told my dad, and he held me accountable to it. And sure enough, after a year, I'd reached my goal with a lot of ebbs and flows. But it actually is an interesting strategy people are using nowadays called the reverse bet. I didn't know any better at the time. But it stems from this diet book, the Blackmail Diet, where the author put $5,000 in escrow. And if he failed to reach his goal, that money was going to a charity he did not support, the American Nazi Party. And that kept him going through the tough times, right? So the point here is to have, whoa, what am I doing? Didn't expect this slide. But that's where I am now. So the point is to have a strong why, right? So what do these buildings mean, right? So if I was to lay a 2x4 width piece of wood across from one of these to the other, would you walk across? Say yes or no in the comments. Would you walk across without, what is that, fall protection gear? The answer for many, unless you're a complete lunatic, is no. But, if the building you were in was burning and your wife and kids were already across to the other side, no doubt you would do it. Or at least you would attempt to. You might fall to your death, but you would certainly attempt it, right? So that is kind of what I'm getting at here with weight loss is the stronger your why, the easier everything will be, right? So what is going to keep you going when you just want to engorge yourself with a box full of chocolate and quit? So that could be anything for you. It could be a health scare. Often it is, unfortunately. It gets to a point where people have a health scare and they have to change. But ideally, it's something that you can find in your life right now that's going to keep you focused. Is it to be that great dad for your kids? Whatever it is, I'll talk about some other whys here. So picture a guy on the couch, right? Heavy set, you can see him. A little lethargic, right? He gets home from work and doesn't have much in the tank. And sure enough, his daughter comes running in, daddy, daddy, daddy. You can see her eyes kind of light up, and there's clearly love for him. It's her dad. She wants to go out and play, and he just can't muster the energy to follow her outside and go to the park, and just doesn't have that. There's just something off, right? And it probably is tied to his weight, his job stress, and lack of sleep. It all comes around, right? So unless he changes his habits, that's exactly it, Quentin. Unless he changes his habits, this could be his daughter on her wedding day, right? The only man in her life that she loves more than this guy. This is a random stock image, by the way. This random guy here, who happens to be her husband, is her dad, right? That's the only guy she loves more, and he's not there to see her or walk her down the aisle because he couldn't change some fundamental habits with his nutrition and exercise. And 20 years down the road, you pay for that, right? You don't pay for it now, other than how you look or your belly looks. But potentially down the road, you're setting yourself up for something like this. And obviously, for many of you, you don't want that to happen. So if this is a why for you, great. It doesn't have to be. It could be anything. So hopefully you have a good why in mind, because I wanted to get that out of the way before I got into the secrets here, because nothing I tell you after this point will really work if you don't have that why in place that's going to drive you forward. So what does Jerry Seinfeld have to do with this, right? Well, I watched a recent, I think it was a comedy series he did on Netflix, and he talks about how in the moment we can't really picture our future selves, right? So what I mean by that is, your future you will pay for the consequences of you binge watching Netflix and not getting proper sleep and eating a bunch of junk food, right? You wake up in the next morning and you curse that night guy, who happens to be you, for setting yourself up for a horrible day the next day, right? It's hard to have the discipline to, in the moment, reflect and make the right decision most of the time, right? So how do you do that? Well, one strategy is to actually picture a fatter version of yourself, look in the mirror first and see this person and realize that person could be you down the road if you don't make the right choice in that moment, right? It's not an easy thing to do, obviously, but it's worth considering having the discipline to put your future you's importance front in mind in the moment. All right, so you're going to move into the secrets. Hit the like button if you're still alive there. I know I had a bunch of bailers at the last minute. So you guys who are on are the ones that expect more of yourselves. That's good. That's why you're here. So how I got fat eating the good old boring chicken and broccoli and instead get lean with Five Guys. So most people picture a diet and they think of a kale salad, right? A boring kale salad, light dressing, and you shower it with tears because you hate your life and your diet. And it simply does not have to be that way. And this is also the reason why most dieters simply regain the lost weight and then some. They push too hard, eat too much clean food, and then they have this big rebound after. And rinse and repeat, the cycle repeats itself, right? So what I'm going to talk about first is kind of the science behind dieting. I'm not going to get too into it, but just to give you some insight. Mark Hobb, professor, Kansas State, put himself on Twinkies, nothing but Twinkies and a few other junk food related foods for 8 weeks to prove a point here. He didn't die. In fact, he lost 27 pounds, a very aggressive diet. His body fat dropped. Well, you think, well, it's still junk food. He probably screwed up his blood work and his health. In fact, all that improved as well. His bad cholesterol went down. Good cholesterol went up. Triglycerides, it's the measurement of the blood, or fat in your blood, went down significantly. So what gives? Well, when it comes to losing weight, a calorie deficit overall is what matters most. You can lose weight eating junk if you're eating less than your body needs to maintain, right? I don't recommend entirely going junk because you'll be extra hungry because these foods typically aren't as filling as a whole food meal would be, but it proves a point that you need to know your numbers to some degree and eat in a calorie deficit to lose weight. So what I like to do is something called structured flexibility, which means you eat pretty, healthy, good foods for the most part, but you build in these flex meals, which I'll talk about later, but also having some room if you've done things right. So if your calorie target for the day is 2,500, after dinner you've got 300 calories to work with, you've hit your protein number for the day, you could have any of these and be perfectly fine, right? That's kind of the point I'm getting at. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. So what I like to do is kind of focus on hand sizes. You don't need to count calories at this stage. Typically, eating 3 square meals like this will get you into a calorie deficit by default if you're exercising. So on that same point, I like to think of 2 phases of dieting. Most people only think the honeymoon phase where they're losing 2 pounds a week and they're rolling, they're happy. And then it stops, right? The marriage phase is where the real work begins. And it's where you try to maintain your new weight. You don't lose as aggressively, but that plateau is a win. And most people see it as a loss and they quit doing what got them there and rebound. So this is a nice graphic here where most people think their weight is just going to be a steady drop, right? 200 pounds at the start of the year, I'm going to be 12 pounds by the end of the year. And clearly it does not work that way. Even if you do things right, you're going to go on vacation, probably gain a couple pounds. You'll lose it back after because you're motivated to get back into a routine. But it's going to be kind of a heart rate chart more than a straight line. And there's some science behind this. It's called the set point theory, where the longer you've been at a certain weight, the more it's going to want to hold that number, right? Because it perceives any sort of threat of weight loss as a threat to its survival, your body. So what you want to do is lose in increments. And this varies, right, based on where you're starting, your genetics. But for an example here, you can lose 20 pounds in 2-3 months. Then you want to maintain that weight. Make 210 your new set point, right? You start at 230. Make 210 your new set point. Hold that number so your body stops fighting and get back to 230. And then you can start dieting again until you reach your goal. So basically, you lose a few pounds a week. If you're losing 2 pounds a week on a good diet, you should be maintaining muscle, even gaining. So the look in the mirror is going to be quite significant. And that's the main thing, right? And then you diet for 2 months, 4 months. The more you have to lose, the longer you can go for it. But eventually you're going to have to hit that marriage phase where you maintain for a bit. And that's perfectly acceptable, right? So hopefully there's no questions about that. It's pretty straightforward. But the main thing is just playing the long game, not seeing this as a 4-week, 30-day diet where you're going to go back to old habits. So secret number 2 is how ditching CrossFit and training less led to more muscle and less fat. So again, this guy, you've seen CrossFit. I did CrossFit for 3 months. I respect what these guys do. It's a hell of a workout, right? It pushes you to your limits. But most people's lives are not conducive to the training load that they put you under, right? Because you're not getting perfect sleep. You got kids stressors, you got work stressors. And to go and do a CrossFit workout every night is going to drive you into the ground, and it did to me. And I wanted to make sure I tested instead of just being the guy who, pisses on something without actually doing it. But I got blood work done afterwards, and my testosterone was the lowest it's ever been. My knees were shot. Stress hormones were through the roof. And sure, I may have been able to do it if my nutrition was perfect, my sleep was perfect, but no one really lives in that perfect world, right, when it comes to this stuff. So what you want to do is train just enough to keep your hormonal environment favorable, right? We don't want those moobs, fat bastard noobs in your face. Hopefully you can see this GIF moving because that's the value in this slide. I'll keep it on there just for that reason. Sean agrees because he was a CrossFitter for a while. Now he's hitting the weights on his own. Training like a bodybuilder. That's what I like. So moobs happen from an imbalance, right? Which is what happened in my teen years. Just by gaining too much weight, estrogen went up, testosterone went down, and that fat needs to store somewhere. And sure enough, it went to the breasticles, which thankfully I no longer have. So what are the main keys to keep your hormonal environment optimal? First up is to get as lean as possible. And this doesn't mean ripped six-pack, right, with veins popping out everywhere. That actually puts yourself on the other end of the spectrum where you can have bad hormones again. But getting rid of that muffin top, right, the beer gut, and leaning out. Because the leaner you get up to a point, the higher your testosterone is going to be. So let's drop that body fat. Paul Turner agrees. So we want to eliminate plastics. I know this is kind of a hotly contested thing, but eating out of plastic, especially if you heat it up, that's a no-no. Unless you want man boobs. No, I'm just kidding. It doesn't happen that easily, but if you don't sweat on the daily, you can build up levels of BPA plastic that you don't want in your system. So move on from the plastic as best you can. Glass Tupperware, metal or glass water bottles. High fiber. This is good too, because a low fiber diet, you have no way of expelling estrogen, right? You shit it out essentially. If there's any kids on the call, I'm apologizing in advance. Oh no, that wouldn't be in advance. That was after. So get your greens. I like some protein bars for this because they have a lot of fiber. Make sure you're on the toilet once or twice a day. Now, this is not mandatory, but if you're looking for that little extra edge, quality food sources, right? If the animal's healthy when you eat it, Mitch, get off the plastic. So organic beef and dairy when possible. Greens, I'm not so worried about you getting organic. It's pretty lukewarm in terms of actually if there's a benefit to that or not. So, but certainly local beef, if you can get a supplier, do it. Minimize canned foods. And I refuse to change the picture, clearly, because there's still a cow on the slide. So you want cans out of your diet as best you can as well, just for the same reasons as the plastic. BPA level is very high, and for some reason they haven't banned this completely, the FDA. So, you know, the company's making it. It's cheap and easy, so they keep doing it. Avoid soy. Paul Turner will know this one. I mean, it takes a lot of soy to get to the levels that it affects your hormones, but play it safe. Soy sucks to begin with, so don't even bother with soy milk, tofu, whatever the vegans eat, right? They're off the call now. They quit after the slide 3 when I showed the vegan guy, so we're good. Avoid soy. So exercise to a point. Like I said, CrossFit is probably too extreme. It knocks your hormones in the wrong direction, but the right amount, weight training is great for your hormones. So you want to just the right amount, right? And cardio, if you're a fan. I know Clive is. He's on the call. That can actually help you flush and break down estrogen as well. This is a big one. People tend to struggle with it. You know, the next day after you haven't had a good sleep, how you feel. Grumpy. That's a sign your hormones are out of whack. And, you know, repeatedly having 5 hours, 6 hours, day after day is going to impact not just your quality of life, your productivity levels, but your hormones as well. All right, so that is it for the hormones. Secret 3, how I overcame those fat kid genes, right? Getting called, good old, yeah, getting called, remember from the start? Mitch tits instead of bitch tits, very funny. So this is me in a bathroom again with selfies. So certainly not a bodybuilder jacked, but I'm happy with what I've achieved, and it's really the health that comes from this, the confidence, the benefits that I want to impart on you guys. So the irony is, you know, slow metabolism is one thing. There are genetic differences among us, right? But we want to get you beyond that. Yeah, shift work is tough, Chris. That's a big one. I've worked with a few guys, and kind of have to like preload sleep and take melatonin on the days you do get a good sleep, that kind of thing. So well, again, going back to our calorie deficit, right? That's the first step if you want to lose weight. But this is more important. This changed my genetics by upping protein intake significantly. Your metabolism gets ramped up, right? This helps you build muscle, which also boosts your basic metabolic rate in the end, right? So that's an important one. Make sure you focus in on that. So lots of people say you can't lose fat and gain muscle at the same time. And I'd like you to kind of choose one or the other to be your focus. But the more weight you have to lose, the more fuel you have to build new muscle while still losing fat. So this is a big take home. If you're 20, 30 pounds away from what you think is your ideal weight, you can gain muscle while losing that weight. And that's what this program is all about. So another one is model success. I mean, you wouldn't take financial advice from someone who's bankrupt. I mean, I had coaches throughout the process. I've been at this for 15 years now, and I was not above having a coach back in the day. It's certainly, accelerated the learning curve for me. I didn't have to learn by trial and error for so many years, and accelerated things, right? But you also have to have balance. Like I said, friends, social life is important. And that's what this, again, is about. And what I think most people are missing, right? They have the information off the internet. You can download a program. That's easy. What they don't have is the support group. Maybe their spouse isn't really on board. Having some sort of environment that brings out the best in them. They have that accountability, right? Where they have someone kind of checking in on them. They have somewhere to go when they're struggling. This is a really important piece for fitness. And what I think is a low-hanging fruit is to, even if you have kids, to minimize the amount of junk food in the house. Even make it harder, whether it's in a basement freezer instead of your pull-out freezer in the fridge upstairs. That can make a difference too. So if you're going to have junk, go out and have a planned meal, but try not to have like a pantry full of junk that just stares at you and you open it up every half hour after 8 o'clock, right? So protein at the ready again. I'm going to hammer through these because most of it's pretty redundant. This is one, though, that I see people overlook. It's called NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And this is the unconventional calories you burn, not from doing weights or cardio, but just from, tapping your foot, walking more. Construction workers in particular have a lot of this because they work in cold temperatures. They're busy. They're working all day. So going out of your way to get more activity can really add up when it comes to fat loss. That's an important one. All right, so this is a dog and another dog's ass, just to kind of give you a little interruption from all the slides. We're getting near the end here. I want to make sure you're absorbing as much information as you can. Brown noser. All right, so what I call the hierarchy of fat loss, the big piece at the bottom, which is what I focused almost this entire thing on, was nutrition, right? Calorie deficit and keeping an emphasis on protein in your diet. The research is pretty strong in this one. Enough protein maintains muscle while you diet down and has a filling effect. It fills you up without a bunch of calories. Second piece is resistance training. Clive would probably put cardio in that one, but this is my slideshow, so I get to choose. And that's resistance training, right? That's lifting weights. Doesn't necessarily have to mean in the gym. It could be just your own body weight. At a certain point, that's perfectly acceptable. Third piece is, again, sleep and minimizing stress. This is one I didn't really focus on for years, and it kind of held me back, right? The stress hormones were out of whack. So making sure I was sleeping enough. You can do meditation, whatever kind of gets you in the zone, but making sure you kind of take some downtime. It's important for not just fat loss, but just your quality of life in general. And the last piece is that cardio and conditioning. I like intervals. I like steady state cardio at certain points for certain people, but it's kind of the 5% here. Those big three below is going to lead to more fat loss while maintaining muscle. So that's what you want to focus on. All right, so what it looks like is really, you're not packing Tupperware, glass Tupperware, all day. It's 2 square meals most days and 2 snacks that are on the go, ready to eat stuff that is from a list of things. You work out 3 to 4, maybe 5 times a week. It's not a daily thing where you're spending 2 hours in the gym. There's no need for that. And then we'll talk about, of course, managing stress, blah, blah, blah. I like small periods of fasting. I think that's a good tool. If it works for you, it doesn't work for everybody. And then make sure you have a support group to kind of push you. It's just like being on a team, right? Whether it was a high school sport or something. Having that support group in the locker room brought out the best in your game, and it brings out the best in you when it comes to fitness as well. So what we're doing is the 8-week summer shred. So a lot of you guys are probably in the Mansformation group. This is just a new program you're all getting included with that. There may be a few of you that are not. So what this will be about is getting you ready for Speedo season. Hit like if you're prepared to wear a banana hammock on July 1st. Okay, well, hit the heart if you're not prepared. So if you're not prepared, we want to get you there. It doesn't mean you're actually ever going to sport this thing. But the goal is to get you in a place where you're actually comfortable throwing on this thing and posting a video online like I did a couple years ago. That is the goal. So we're going to talk a bit about the guys who have been in these 8-week programs, been in Mansformation before. Scott is going through a health issue right now, so I almost didn't want to put this in here, to be honest. But his transformation was so dramatic, losing 100 pounds, not all with me, not all with Mansformation, but you can see by his quote that he dropped his body fat percentage by 5%, trimmed down, fine-tuned the physique at this point. You all know Curtis, I'm sure, 40 pounds down. What the big thing for him was, not just the weight loss, is the wedding he had, right? And you'll see his comment on the side here where he put on his new suit. Didn't think it was going to fit properly. And yeah, a little soft man post here. He teared up after he saw himself in it. And that was sort of that, those little victories you get from fitness that aren't reflected in a scale number or, a weight loss goal. And we got Steven, who obviously had a very dramatic transformation. That's his 9-week before and after on the left there. That's results not typical. And he's come a long way since. In fact, since starting the program, this will be the first full summer. And he's excitedly bought shorts and T-shirts. He's going to be going to the beach now. And just like he said here, where is it now? Yeah, haven't been this size in 20 years. And he's pumped to go. I mean, when you shop for clothes that you like fitting into, it makes everything happier, right? So that was his big achievement, was buying new clothes. When you buy new clothes for a good reason, that you no longer fit your big pants, that's awesome. Paul Turner's on the call, so I quickly threw this in there. He was with me last year, and more recently at the start of this year as well. But looks pretty jacked, dropped under 200 pounds. I don't know if he's creeping up now since we stopped working together, but nonetheless, had a pretty trying year, and this was sort of kind of centered him, having this fitness journey that he did, and he was really focused and got a hell of a result, as you can see. So Trent is with me right now. The funny hat picture, well, he looks a little bit chubbier, obviously, but that was actually at his previous lowest. But he was doing 60 minutes a day of cardio, an hour of weights, and measuring every bit of food that went into his mouth, right? And the after picture is in my program, which has none of that, right? And that was kind of the reason his old plan was not realistic for him now. He had a baby girl and a wife, career in law enforcement. There was no reason he had to be doing that extreme plan. And we kind of proved that. He looks a lot healthier in this other shot. Looks great. And this was Jeff. So Jeff is more of the skinny fat type, and we got his six-pack abs out. This is a goal for some, right? Not for everybody, but certainly he's a dad too. A couple kids, lives out in BC, and we did this all remotely, and a great end result for him. Sean is on the call. Yes. So I can't even read his quote. My writing's so bad, but he was the type that wasn't willing to go into a gym before we started, right? It was completely foreign idea to him. And now we're no longer working together, but he is Mansformer for life just because now he's going to the gym. He's comfortable doing this. He's pretty much a gym bro now, which is really cool. And even had a little spell with CrossFit, which I feel sorry for him for doing that. But nonetheless, you got to try it before you give up on it. All right, we're almost at the end here. So Stosh is another guy from my hometown, Vermilion Bay, Ontario. 2 kids, horrible diet. He had lost a lot of weight on his own, but he felt like he just had no muscle tone, right? So what we kind of honed in on was leaning out that pouch, but also getting him some thickness back, and he had a good result as well. And like you said, I think I copied his quote there, and it's quite lengthy, but nonetheless, that was his. 255 back squat, Sean. I like it. So this is Mike T, Mr. T, in the group as well. Selfie with his dog. Like he says, it's not just about the scale. He likes seeing the changes, body composition. And, the program just gives him some varied workouts. it's a realistic plan, right? Same with David. Everything was just more about accountability, and that worked for him. He lost 40-some pounds, and he still kept it off. He's a movie actor, actually. He's been in, what was that? Central Intelligence. Had a small role there. So we're looking for him to get a lead role now after this. All right, so almost done. I just want to quickly touch on a few guys who are in it currently. Ryan, who is down from 185 to 200. I think he's been in a couple months. Didn't have a very good picture. I wasn't sure if I could use his wife and kids, so I blocked it out. And then Doug as well. Recently had a job interview. Tried on his suit, his old suit, which was 50 pounds ago, and his waist had shrunk by 6 or 7 pant sizes. So quite baggy. Needless to say, he probably didn't get the job because he looked ridiculous, but the weight loss was good. And then Sean. Unfortunately, I was going to put a picture of him, and I forgot to do it, but he's lost 10 pounds. Like, this is the guy that I spoke about where it's been a month, and he's down 10. And it's just having that extra accountability, which has made a difference for him. All right, so what's new for some of the guys who haven't been in this is the flexibility, right? Summer's coming around. You're going to want to have some off-plan meals on weekends. So what I call these is flex meals and short and efficient workouts because time is at the essence. So what is a flex meal? Well, this could be a Five Guys burger again. Fries, Diet Coke. Don't make the regular Coke. That's pushing it. But they're certainly capable. So 8 weeks of training is what we're looking at. This can be varied, right? I customize it to you. It's in an app, and I'll give you a quick tour at the end of this. We've got another 3 minutes here, guys. The easy-to-follow diet guidelines, like I said, it's not calorie counting. You still get to have beers and burgers. It's just in strategic ways, right, that still allow you to lose weight each week. And like I said, the mastermind group, I don't know why I call it mastermind. It's Mansformation group with the other guys. That's going to keep you going when the going gets tough, and I'll walk you through the group briefly at the end as well. You get a personal virtual Thunder Buddy, someone that pretty much is like a workout partner without actually going to the gym together, right? You check in every once in a while. You get a team name, gives you a little extra incentive. And then I do weekly training, sort of like this, in the group for Mansformers only. Total value, high. People always like to put a total value on this, some arbitrary number. I'm not that guy, so hey, it's cool. It'd be high if I sold it individually or something. Okay, cool. So 4 clients in the group, and this is not some false scarcity thing. 4 guys, and I want them to be 4 cool guys. So there's not a link to buy or anything. You have to actually message me, and then we'll get on a quick call to see if you're a good fit, what the details are, right? And on Sunday, I close it down because we want to get this started on May 1st because that's 8 weeks to July 1st. Time is of the essence, right? All right. So that's it. You hit that link. I'm going to show you a quick tour of what this looks like. So the first piece is the PDF nutrition plan, right? 7 pages, not too much detail here. Hopefully you guys can still see this. So what you're looking at is the weekly meal plan here. You get your higher carb days with the flex meals on the weekends. And then there are protein, fat, protein, carb, and high protein snacks. And I give you a ton of options on each of these, right? So everyone in the group is going to get this. And then also the visual guide that goes with it, when to eat these, when to eat these. And then I give you some sample meal plans as well and some recipes. So lots there, but it's pretty cut and dry. All right, so we got workouts in the app. So this is something you download to your phone. Probably should have had this loaded, but let's see. So on my end, it's going to look a lot different than yours. But essentially, it's a video for each exercise. You click in it. A lot of the guys in Mansformation know this. It's pretty straightforward. And it's loading your app. I get a notification when you complete a workout, and we kind of go back and forth within the app to keep it simple for you. And the third most important piece I find is the environment, right? So this is the closed group. Each Monday we do an accountability check-in post. You can see all the comments here. 2 to 5 diet. Oh. And people are honest, which is good. And they kind of go through the last week, what they're going to focus on this week to continue getting progress. And I think it helps to have that extra help, right? If it's only you in the fight, it's very easy to quit. And when you got someone checking in on you, and guys who are on the same page as you as well, you know, striving towards the same goals, that can be very powerful mentally. So that is all we got. Any questions, you can drop them below. But otherwise, just PM me if you're interested in one of those 4 spots. There's no pressure or anything. You got lots out of this for free. But if you want to take the next step, 8 weeks in time for July 1st for beach season, I can be your helping hand here, and the rest of the group will be on board as well, because everyone in there is going to get this as soon as I close this down for the night. All right. So I'm going to just leave it up for 1 minute while I try to exit this out without closing it improperly. I think we're good. Oh, Trent has just completed a workout. I like it. That's what it's all about. You talking fat burners there, Chris? Chris asked, what's your opinion on burners? Not a big fan. The ones that release adrenaline, like you're talking ephedrine, euhimbine, there's a point of diminishing returns with those pretty quickly, where you burn out, right? You get anxiety, you don't sleep as well. So typically I would steer someone away from that. You can actually lose libido with ephedrine as well. And no one wants to not get a hard-on, right? Hard-on is good. So I would advise against that. There's some other options that I would recommend. You may have seen the video back a few weeks ago on nicotine gum. If you have a non-addictive personality, that can help you pre-exercise lose a bit more fat. Not a huge difference maker, but it's a bit of a stimulant without the crash that you get from others. All right, guys. So hit that link on my website, mitchcalvert.com, if you're down to take the next step, figure out your why, and get more results in 8 weeks than you have in the last year on your own. That's essentially what it's about. I'm trying to help as many people as possible. All right, guys. So we'll shut her down there. It's been a slice.